Congestion management in AI training fabrics is not a performance optimization, it is a correctness requirement. Okay, that quote right there, it really changes everything. Because if you've been around traditional data centers for a while, you know the drill. Standard, best effort networking has been the rule for literally decades. A packet drops, TCP retransmits it, and honestly, nobody really even notices. But here in the age of AI fabrics, best effort is dead. It's totally gone. Today, we have to hunt down every single microscopic bottleneck just to save our clusters from these multi-million-dollar stalls.
So welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're focusing squarely on Chapter 4 of the amazing 12-part tutorial series from Virtualization Options LLC. They're a Colorado-based technology research, education, and advisory organization, and their series, The Modern Data Center, Networking in the AI Age, is just fantastic. We're going to break down this incredibly rapid, aggressive evolution of the hardware frontier. So if you're trying to figure out exactly how the physical gear in our racks is mutating to keep up with the insane demands of AI, well, you're absolutely in the right place.
We're taking a micro to macro journey today. We'll start with the new hardware engine, test the limits of copper, explore the optical transition, and then wrap up by fighting the congestion battle.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the new hardware engine. You know, the absolute beating heart of the modern AI data center is the application-specific integrated circuit, the ASIC. Just look at this staggering number, 51.2 terabits per second. That is the sheer capacity of modern merchant silicon ASICs, like the Broadcom Tomahawk 5 that dropped in 2023. To put that into perspective, a single chip, just one piece of silicon, can support 512 ports running at 100 gigabits per second or 128 ports at 400 gigabits per second. This is the raw, unadulterated forwarding engine of the fabric. It brings the massive, heavy-duty horsepower we need just to keep those GPUs constantly fed with data.
But, you know, the switches? That's really only half the story here. Look at how the network interface card on the server side has evolved. We've moved way past standard Ethernet adapters into SmartNICs. Those are great for offloading things like TCP checksums and RDMA operations while staying under the host OS's control. But the real game changer for AI is the DPU, the data processing unit, like NVIDIA's Bluefield. A DPU actually hosts its own entirely independent operating system instance. Why does that matter? It means it can enforce zero-trust security policies and manage network virtualization totally independent of the host CPU. So even if the host server gets completely compromised, your network boundary stays totally locked down.
Moving on to Section 2, the limits of copper. This is where network engineering crashes headfirst into the unforgiving laws of physics. Okay, at the core of physical signaling is SERDES technology, the serializer/deserializer. And right now, we are sitting at the 224G SERDES frontier. Basically, we're operating at 224 gigabits per second per electrical lane. Every generation of SERDES roughly doubles the per-lane data rate, which is awesome because it gives us much denser port configurations on the switch ASIC. But there's a massive trade-off. Higher frequency electrical signals attenuate so much faster when they travel through copper printed circuit board traces and cables.
And that brings us to the crucial point. At 224G speeds, passive copper cables hit a hard absolute physical limit of just 0.5 to 1 meter. I mean, really think about that for a second. At half a meter to a meter, you can't even cross a standard server rack. You'd almost be better off using 2 tin cans and a string. The signal integrity budget is completely exhausted before you get any useful data center distance. Sure, active electrical cables can amplify the signal and help out a tiny bit, but those fundamental attenuation limits of copper, you just can't bypass them.
And that unavoidable death of copper brings us right into Section 3, the optical transition. Optics inside the data center aren't some future roadmap item anymore. They are an immediate, happening right now migration.
Check out this rapid chronological shift we're living through. Back in the 10G and 25G era, cheap, passive, copper, direct-attach cables, or DOCs, completely dominated the floor. Then, at 100G and 400G, we shifted over to QSFP-DD pluggable optics. But now that we're entering the 800G era, copper is virtually useless for anything beyond the server right next door. And looking ahead to 1.6 terabit speeds for 2026 and beyond, a new technology called co-packaged optics, or CPO, becomes absolutely mandatory. No way around it.
To really grasp why CPO is mandatory, we have to look at how traditional optics are built. In a traditional pluggable setup, the optical module plugs right into the faceplate of the switch. That means electrical signals have to travel from the switch ASIC,
all the way across the printed circuit board traces and through a connector before they even get converted into light. Every single millimeter of that journey destroys signal integrity and eats up massive amounts of power. Co-packaged optics changes the game completely. It integrates the optical engine directly under the switch package, so it sits right next to the ASIC. That long electrical trace to the faceplate? Gone. Completely eliminated.
Now, the economics here are pretty wild. By getting rid of that electrical trace, CPO drops optical port power consumption by 30 to 40%. And when you're running a power-constrained AI data center, that is a huge deal. Let's say you have a 10,000 GPU cluster. That setup requires tens of thousands of optical modules. A fully populated 400G spine switch can easily need 128 optics, which can cost up to $1,000 each. The optics bill of materials will literally often exceed the cost of the switch ASICs themselves. That's exactly why engineers are so fiercely exploring alternatives like linear drive pluggable optics, or LPO. LPO strips out the digital signal processor in the receiver to save per-port power and cost, even if it means sacrificing just a little bit of link margin.
All right, let's zoom out to the macro level with Section 4, the congestion battle. We're going to examine why standard Ethernet drops, which we all used to just ignore, are now catastrophic.
In AI networking, we have to talk about something called the tyranny of the tail. This is the startling reality that a microscopic 0.1% packet loss will stall an entire all-reduced collective operation. Remember, when thousands of GPUs are synchronizing their gradients simultaneously, the network runs strictly at the speed of its worst-performing link. It's like a giant convoy.
And honestly, the consequences of that are terrifying for your ROI. Research consistently shows that this tiny 0.1% drop rate compounds so rapidly across these barrier-synchronized collectives that it degrades overall cluster-wide GPU utilization by up to 30%. You are essentially throwing away almost a third of your multi-million-dollar GPU investment, all because of a tiny fraction of dropped packets.
This extreme sensitivity is exactly why AI fabrics rely on RDMA over Converged Ethernet, specifically raw CV2. Standard TCP/IP, it handles drops easily by just retransmitting later, but raw CV2 demands absolute, zero-tolerance lossless transport. If even a single packet drops, the receiving application has to hold state, the network has to flush the partially delivered data, and the originating host has to execute a full retransmission. Endpoints have to totally resynchronize. In a tightly coupled training job, that one drop is a multi-million-dollar stall. So lossless transport isn't just a nice-to-have option, it is the minimum viable specification.
So, how do we achieve this flawless, lossless state over Ethernet? The fabric relies on two complementary protocols working in perfect harmony. First, you have ECN, or Explicit Congestion Notification. Think of this as your proactive early warning system. It marks packets when queue depths start to rise, politely telling the end hosts, hey, maybe slow down a bit. Then you have PFC, Priority Flow Control. That serves as your emergency brake. It sends a hard pause frame to the upstream neighbor to stop traffic immediately, right before a buffer actually overflows.
But here is the catch. If you misconfigure PFC, it can propagate that congestion upstream, creating what's known as a pause storm. And that will literally freeze completely unrelated traffic across your entire fabric. It's a total mess. To avoid this, ECN has to be tuned to fire early, say around 20 to 40% buffer occupancy, to give senders time to react. PFC should only fire at 60 or 70% as an absolute last resort. And because AI traffic creates microbursts that last for mere microseconds, your traditional 5-minute SNMP polling, totally useless. You have to implement continuous, sub-second streaming telemetry to monitor queue depths and actively tune these thresholds to the exact message sizes of the AI model you're training.
The hardware frontier is moving at breakneck speed, isn't it? From those massive 51 terabit ASICs and zero-trust DPUs to the physical wall of 224G copper forcing us into co-packaged optics, all the way to the knife-edge tuning required for lossless RoCV2. As we approach massive industry shifts with Ultra Ethernet and 1.6 terabit optics on the horizon, I want to leave you with one final thought. How will your hardware choices today dictate your competitive standing in the looming 2026 architecture inflection? Because mastering these exact components, it's not just IT plumbing anymore. It is quite literally the only way to architect, scale, and future-proof your AI infrastructure. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will see you next time.